Okay, let's talk about heartburn. That that really uncomfortable burning feeling, sometimes sour, sometimes bitter, that rises up. You know the one.
Absolutely. And most people, when they feel it, they reach for the same kind of thing, thinking they're solving the problem.
Right, like an antacid or baking soda. But what if that quick fix is actually, well, distracting us from what's really going on?
That's exactly it. The immediate relief is so effective, it's kind of created this huge misunderstanding about heartburn.
Yeah, this idea that's been around forever. Oh, I have heartburn must mean I have too much stomach acid.
Yeah.
So today we're going to unpack that. We really need to.
We're diving deep into how the body actually works to show why just focusing on reducing acid is often, well, it's like putting a Band-Aid on something that needs stitches. It's maybe a bit of self-deception even. Our mission here is to uncover the two main and frankly pretty surprising causes behind chronic heartburn. One is physical, the other is more neurological, tied to our experiences. That's right. We want to go beyond just managing the symptom and explain why that burning actually starts. And spoiler alert, it's usually not because your acid is just inherently too strong overall.
Okay, let's jump right in then. Why is this whole too much acid idea so misleading?
Well, because your stomach acid, when everything's working right, is supposed to be incredibly strong. We're talking really acidic. A pH between 1.5 and 3, that's normal.
Wow, 1.5, that's really strong.
It is. It needs to be that strong to break down food properly, and also to kill off any nasty bacteria or things you might swallow. Your stomach lining, it's built for it, totally equipped to handle that level of acidity.
Okay, so if the acid is meant to be that strong and the stomach can handle it,
Mhm.
why does it burn the esophagus, the food pipe leading down to it?
Ah, that's the key question. The burn happens because the acid isn't staying where it belongs. Think of your stomach like a really tough pouch. It has two muscular valves, like gates, sphincters is the technical term.
Okay, gates. I like that analogy. Simple.
Yeah, easier to picture. So there's a lower gate that lets the digested food move out into the intestines. And then there's an upper gate right between the food pipe, the esophagus, and the stomach.
Got it.
Normally, after you swallow, that upper gate should slam shut, tight. The real issue with heartburn isn't the strength of the acid, it's that upper gate not closing all the way. Maybe it's weak or just relaxes when it shouldn't.
So it's leaky.
Exactly, it's leaky. And when that gate is even a little bit open, that normal, very strong acid can splash back up or reflux onto the lining of the food pipe.
Which isn't built to handle that kind of acidity.
Precisely. The food pipe lining is much more sensitive. So that acid causes a chemical irritation, basically a burn. That's the feeling of heartburn. If that gate stayed shut like it's supposed to, you could have the strongest acid imaginable down there and you wouldn't feel a thing up top.
So the gatekeeper is failing.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense than just too much acid. Okay, but then, why do things like Tums or baking soda work so fast? If the acid level isn't the root problem, we'll definitely circle back to that when we talk solutions. But first, let's figure out why that gate, that upper valve, stops working properly. What's the first major cause you mentioned? The physical one.
Right, the physical cause. This is all about mechanics, essentially an internal squeeze. It comes down to increased pressure inside your abdomen, your belly area,
Pressure. From what?
mainly from the large intestine, the colon. It sits kind of around and below the stomach. Now, if you have a lot of gas, maybe from foods that aren't digesting well, causing fermentation, that large intestine can, well, it can inflate quite dramatically.
How dramatically are we talking?
Believe it or not, it can expand sometimes up to 40 times its usual relaxed size.
40 times? That's
Yeah.
huge. Where does all that extra volume go?
Exactly. It has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And where it tends to go is up. It pushes upwards on all the organs sitting above it, particularly the stomach. And critically, it pushes up against the diaphragm.
The diaphragm. That big muscle under the lungs that helps us breathe.
That's the one. It separates your chest cavity from your abdominal cavity. So this constant upward pressure from the gassy colon pushes the stomach out of its normal position. It kind of shoves it upwards.
And I imagine if the stomach itself is being pushed around, that upper gate, that valve, can't seal properly.
You got it. It's like trying to close a door properly when the door frame is warped or being pushed on. The alignment is off. The valve just can't make a tight seal under that kind of physical stress.
Okay.
And if this pressure, this upward push, is happening day after day for months or even years, it can actually lead to something called a hiatal hernia.
A hernia, like something poking through where it shouldn't.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The diaphragm muscle has a small natural opening that the esophagus passes through to reach the stomach. With all that constant upward pressure, a little part of the stomach itself can get forced or bulge up through that opening into the chest area.
Oh, wow.
Think of it like when a car tire gets weak spot and develops a bulge or a bubble on the side due to pressure.
That's a helpful picture. So the hernia makes the valve problem even worse, I assume.
Definitely. Once you have that physical bulge, that displacement, the upper valve's ability to seal tightly is seriously compromised. And the root cause of that bulge, in most cases, is that persistent high internal pressure from gas in the gut.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit. So we've got a clear physical reason. Too much internal pressure, often from gas, pushing things out of alignment, maybe even causing a hernia. Now, you mentioned a second cause, something different, connected to the brain. This sounds really interesting. It really is fascinating. This second major cause involves how our emotions, our brain, can actually trigger heartburn. It's like a learned reflexive response.
Learned. How can your body learn to give itself heartburn? It happens when you experience a really strong, sudden negative emotional event. Something unexpected, maybe shocking, think intense anger, sudden aggression directed at you, or maybe finding yourself in the middle of a big unresolved conflict or scandal, maybe at work or in a relationship where you feel kind of trapped or helpless.
Okay, like a real moment of intense emotional distress.
Exactly.
A biological shock, some might call it. Now, here's the crucial part. Imagine this intense emotional hit happens while you are eating or drinking something. Maybe just munching on carrots, eating some bread, or sipping juice.
Right. Your body's survival system, the autonomic nervous system, kicks into high gear, fight or flight. But because you were eating at that precise moment of shock, your brain can make a mistake. It accidentally associates the food you were consuming, or maybe its smell, or even the environment, with the danger or the negative feeling.
So the brain flags that specific food as a warning signal.
Essentially, yes. It creates this faulty link. It basically says, watch out. This food or smell or situation means that awful feeling is coming back. It's trying to protect you, but it's misidentified the threat.
And how does that trigger heartburn?
This faulty connection gets wired, often involving the vagus nerve, which is like a major communication highway between your brain and your gut, including your stomach. So the next time you eat that specific food...
The one linked to the shock.
Right. The brain sends a signal down that nerve pathway, almost like a defensive reflex. And that signal tells the upper stomach valve, that gate we talked about, to relax or open slightly.
Why would it do that?
The theory is it's sort of an ancient, primitive reflex, maybe trying to expel something perceived as dangerous. But the result is that slight opening lets the normal stomach acid splash up and boom, heartburn.
Wow. So the food itself isn't the problem at all in this case. It's the brain's memory, the learned reflex, causing the valve to open.
Precisely. The food just becomes the trigger for the memory and the physical response.
That explains some really specific cases you hear about. Like, I remember reading about a woman whose heartburn was terrible every Monday morning.
Ah, yes. Classic example.
And it turned out it was linked to years of stress, like deep suppressed anger towards a really critical boss she had to face every Monday. The food she ate for breakfast on Mondays, maybe her coffee or toast.
Got linked to that initial intense feeling of anxiety or conflict with the supervisor, probably from some specific incident years ago. So every Monday when she had that coffee or toast, her body wasn't just digesting breakfast, it was unconsciously reliving that stress, triggering the valve to open.
And no amount of antacids would fix the reason why the valve was opening in that situation.
Exactly. Until she addressed the underlying emotional situation, that unresolved conflict, the reflex would just keep firing.
Okay, this is making so much sense. Which brings us back to the quick fixes. Let's talk about baking soda, sodium bicarbonate. Why does it feel like such a miracle cure in the moment, even if the acid level itself isn't the real enemy here?
It's clever chemistry, really, and physics. When baking soda hits the strong hydrochloric acid in your stomach, a chemical reaction happens. It neutralizes the acid, yes, but it also produces salt, water, and this is key carbon dioxide gas.
The gas.
Yeah.
That explains the burping that often follows taking it.
Exactly. That belch isn't just a side effect, it's part of the mechanism. Releasing that CO2 gas rapidly lowers the pressure inside the stomach.
Oh, linking back to cause number one, the physical pressure pushing the valve open.
You got it. By quickly venting that gas, the internal pressure drops. This allows that upper valve, the leaky gate, to maybe settle back towards a closed position just temporarily so you get relief from the acid splash.
How long does that relief usually last?
Typically not very long, maybe, 30 minutes, perhaps up to 50 minutes or so. It feels great, but it's important to understand baking soda isn't actually harming your stomach lining or anything like that. But relying on it is that self-deception we mentioned. It's masking the symptom. The inflammation in the esophagus can continue, and the reason the valve is leaky, whether it's physical pressure or that brain reflex, isn't being addressed at all. It's just getting worse over time, potentially.
Are there other temporary fixes people use that work similarly, just masking symptoms?
Yeah, things like sipping warm water can sometimes relax spasms. Chamomile tea is known to be soothing. Ginger with lemon might help some people settle their stomach. These can provide temporary comfort, but again, they don't fix the underlying mechanical or neurological issue.
Okay, so if we want real lasting relief, we have to tackle the actual causes. We need to fix why that gate isn't closing properly. How do we approach that for the two different pathways? Let's start with the physical pressure problem.
Right. For the physical cause, that excessive internal pressure, often from gas, there's a sort of three-pronged approach. First, you have to get serious about reducing the gas production. This means identifying and then really eliminating the specific foods for you that cause bloating and fermentation. This is very individual.
So keeping a food diary, maybe?
Mhm.
Paying close attention?
Absolutely. Second, trying occasional fasting can be beneficial. Even just a single day of fasting, say once a week or once every couple of weeks, can give the digestive system a break and help significantly reduce that internal pressure.
Okay, food elimination and fasting was the third part.
The third part involves physical intervention, specifically something called visceral therapy or visceral manipulation.
Visceral therapy. That sounds intense. What exactly is it? Is it like deep massage?
It's actually usually quite gentle. It's a type of manual therapy done by a trained practitioner that focuses on the internal organs, the viscera. The goal is to gently encourage normal movement and release tension in the organs and their surrounding connective tissues.
And how does that help the pressure in the stomach valve?
Well, remember how that upward pressure can put the diaphragm muscle into spasm? Visceral therapy can help relax the diaphragm. It aims to improve the overall mobility and function of the digestive organs, reducing that fermentation and gas buildup, and relieving the tension that's pushing the stomach upwards.
Can it actually fix things like that hiatal hernia you mentioned?
Remarkably, yes. Over time, with consistent therapy, we're talking weeks or months, it can help resolve the physical displacement of the stomach. It can encourage that little bulge of the hiatal hernia to reduce, potentially avoiding the need for surgery in many cases. It's about restoring the natural mechanics of the abdomen.
Wow, okay, so that's the physical track. Reduce gas, consider fasting, look into visceral therapy. What about the second cause? The brain's learned reflex from emotional shock. How do you fix that? That requires a completely different approach. It's less about physical manipulation and more about, well, emotional action. Action, not just feeling better. Precisely. Here's the key difference. You usually can't resolve these deep-seated emotional triggers just by worrying about them or trying to suppress the feeling internally. The brain keeps firing that defensive reflex because it still perceives the original threat or conflict as ongoing and unresolved. So the stressor, the toxic job, the difficult relationship, the source of that anger or aggression needs to change.
It needs to be addressed directly. This often means taking concrete action in your life. It might involve setting firm boundaries with someone who's constantly critical. It might mean changing your job situation or even leaving a toxic environment altogether. It could mean finally confronting an unresolved conflict.
So you have to actively change the circumstances that the brain perceives as threatening.
Yes. Staying in the situation, continuing to endure the stressor without addressing it, basically guarantees that learned heartburn reflex will keep happening. Inaction allows the trigger to persist. Resolving it requires changing the external reality or your relationship to it.
That's a powerful distinction. Physical problems might respond to therapy and diet, but these emotional triggers need real-world changes.
Mm-hmm.
So let's bring this all together. What does this mean for someone listening right now who struggles with heartburn regularly?
It means viewing that heartburn differently, not just as a random, annoying stomach problem, but as a very clear signal from your body.
A signal telling you what? It's likely telling you one of two things, or maybe even a bit of both. Either, hey, there's a serious mechanical pressure issue going on down here that needs attention, or, hey, there's an unresolved emotional conflict or stressor that my nervous system has mistakenly linked to digestion.
Oh.
So the mistake is just getting frustrated or panicked by the symptom itself.
Exactly. Instead of just reacting to the burn, the invitation is to pause and say, okay, I have heartburn. This is a signal I need to investigate, Am I dealing with physical pressure, or is there an ongoing stressor, an emotional pattern I need to address? Then you can start working on the right level.
Working on reducing the gas through diet, maybe exploring visceral therapy, and looking honestly at sources of major stress or unresolved conflict in your life.
Yes, because if you only rely on those quick fixes, the baking soda, the antacids, you risk staying stuck in that cycle forever, just managing symptoms while the underlying issue perhaps gets worse.
The only way to truly stop fighting the symptom is to find and remove the actual cause that's keeping that upper gate, that valve, from closing properly.
That's the path to lasting relief.
So we'll leave you with a final thought to consider. Looking at your life right now, the physical habits, the food choices, and the emotional landscapes. What is the one concrete action, maybe a dietary change, maybe finally addressing that difficult situation that you might be avoiding, which could be the key to finally letting that internal valve close and finding real peace from heartburn?